Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.
Welcome to the Empower to Integrate project. This is a platform for third country nationals to boost their visibility, amplify their voices, and share their perspective. It also aims to strengthen community empowerment and build social ties with Maltese communities. Hi, I'm Nesli Mayu, and I'm the project lead strategist and the radio show host. Today we'll be talking about they send money home and don't want to help us here. We will then delve into economic challenges and the remittance pressures that migrants often experience as they support their families and communities locally and in their countries of origin. We will also look at how these expectations shape decision-making, well-being and integration, as well as the systemic barriers migrants face in the workplace. Joining me in the studio today is Thulani Moyo. Hello and welcome, Thulani.
Thank you for the time. Pleased to have you.
Thank you. Thulani's professional career spans high-volume hospitality environments within the food and beverage industry. His management experience includes business operations, financial handling, cost control strategy, team leadership, and data-driven decision-making. He is currently expanding his expertise in management accounting as he transitions into financial management roles. His work reflects a commitment to continuous learning and professional growth. He has a vision to close the gap between frontline operations and modern financial practices. Thulani has lived in Malta for 4 years, which he enjoys, regardless of the daily challenges we face here and elsewhere. I'd also like to welcome our second guest, which is Marissa Schweirab. Hello,
Hi.
Marissa.
Hi, thank you for the invite. It's lovely to be here.
Marissa is an economist who has worked in the manufacturing industry for most of her career. She is best known for her role as president of the Malta Chamber of Commerce, Enterprise and Industry between 2021 and 2023. Presently, she holds directorships in a number of boards in various sectors, including financial services and telecoms. She has 2 teenage children who were born in Ethiopia. Thulani, when you first arrived in Malta, what are some of the biggest financial realities or surprises you faced as you tried to settle here?
All right. When I first came to Malta, I was coming from the Middle East, so the integration or the settling part of it was a bit challenging in terms of the financial burden was on me, something that I wasn't used to when you move to other countries. So something that has to do with the fees that you have to pay with the permits, the health insurance. So it's something that you're really not prepared for because you haven't been made aware of those. And when you come, you just have a little bit thinking that everything is sorted. So it was not a shock as such, but it's a challenge. But we had to live with it. Yeah.
And Marissa,
unprepared. Yeah, it was sort of like unprepared.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what advice would you be able to give to a migrant or third country national who wants to move to Malta?
Well, I would say they must take it on a personal level and do as much research as they can. Mm-hmm. And not take it from previous experience from a different place, like what I did. I was coming from Dubai, Middle East. Everything is taken care of. You don't have to pay for anything. So you have to do your own research, take it on from scratch, know exactly what you're going to get into in terms of your finances.
Okay. Marissa, from your perspective, what role can employers or business institutions play in creating safer and fairer working conditions for migrant workers while still building competitive and sustainable industries?
Yes, I think safety has to do a lot with training. So I think training both the local population, the local workers, and foreign workers who come from other countries is very important. Because that is how you build safety. Not just training on the actual processes within the job, but also training on being sensitive to cultural nuances, for example. Respect for people who come from a different culture, practice a different religion. Respect for the local customs as well. I think that is the safety aspect of things. With regards to the other component of your question, which is fairness. This is very, very important, because fairness, the perception of fairness is very personal. What looks fair to you and what looks fair to me may be very different. Now, I think as a country we are struggling here on this. We are struggling because what the locals perceive to be fair is not always, not even what all the locals perceive to be fair. So we have very different perspectives on what is fair. Of course, people coming from different countries, I mean, as he was relating, I think it's very unfair to arrive here and discover that you have to pay fees that weren't communicated to you before you accepted to come here. I think that is not fair, simply. It's unfairness. There is also an element of unfairness sometimes in working conditions. I think when we bring over foreign workers, we tend to forget that these are people like us all. They have families, they have friends, they have hobbies. Now, whether their families are here or away from here, they still have families. And treating them fairly means making it possible for them to have a complete life within the circumstances that they're living in. So allowing them enough time to integrate socially, to build a network of friends here, to communicate with their families, whether they are with them here locally or in their home country. I think these are very important things. And overworking them, for example, giving them a lot of hours of work beyond what is legally allowed, that is unfair. That is unfair. Equal pay for equal work. That is fairness. Not expecting them to be treated differently because they come from a different country. That is fairness.
Thulani, could you share your thoughts around supporting your family members back home, as we're talking about, through remittances, while you're also trying to build your own life here in Malta?
Yeah, that's a bit of a balancing act you have to play with, because you have to live, like, let's say, 2 lives here and at home, financially, that is. But it's a bit different. It's different from person to person. Others have families, as an extended family. Others have their own families, like maybe kids or a wife or a husband. And then here you have to live also. So the remittance part tends to be, because it's more of, it's an obligation. You don't have a choice, but you have to do it. So it tends to limit your progression in terms of financial stability. But regardless, we still have to send back, because they still have to survive, and I still have to survive here. Yes, so it's because coming here means we are economic migrants. So everything revolves around the finances. Yeah.
And how can we balance it with our families back home in our countries of origin, where sometimes, like you say, you don't even have time for your hobbies, or you don't have time to, buy new clothes, but you want to support them? How can we also give them the message that sometimes we can't always help them?
Yeah, there has to be what can I say? The right way of communication. Make sure your people understand where you stand in terms of your finance. They have to understand that where you are is different from home, because you find that at home, I've got a house, I don't have to pay rent at home, but here I have to pay like €1,000 for one bed. So they have to understand all those aspects that, okay, fine, it's different here. And groceries, I have to spend like €300. At home, I have to spend maybe 150. So they need to understand, okay, fine, whatever that you're going to remit to them, it doesn't always reflect what is happening this side. And you can try to explain to them, but you can only play your part as far as you can. They have to understand. So it's we're living in different worlds, so to speak. Yeah, but we are here, so we have to keep up. Yes.
Yeah. And Marissa, from your experience, how can Malta better recognize migrants' contribution to the economy beyond simply filling labor shortages, especially in sectors like manufacturing, hospitality, or construction?
I think it depends on how we want to position ourselves as a country on the international market for migrant workers. I mean, it is a fact that we have a demographic issue, like so many other countries, and that without the support of foreign workers, we wouldn't be able to keep the economy running. And we have to recognize this, that these people who are choosing to come to work here are actually helping us with a problem that we cannot manage on our own. And this deserves respect because they are making some very big personal sacrifices in leaving their families behind to come to work here, but also important life choices when they choose to come here and not go to any other European country that also has a shortage of workers. And the fact that they make the choice to come here is something that we should be grateful for rather than feel like we're doing them a big favor, giving them a job, which is sometimes the feeling that we communicate. I think it's very important to recognize that they have a very important function in our economy. And this has to be communicated also in the language that we choose. That these are people, I mean, they have names. I hate it when they refer to as the Indian or the Pakistani or the Nigerian. These are people who have names, who have stories, who have families. And especially employers have a very important role because we are the ones who are most dependent on foreign workers, even more than everyone else within the country, because we have capital invested in operations that would not be able to be sustained without the support of these workers. So I think it's very important that in the way we speak, in the way we communicate, we acknowledge the contribution that these people are giving so that we can continue to live in a country whose economy continues to grow.
Thank you for sharing that. It's quite interesting because sometimes you'll hear, the negative narratives that they're taking our jobs or they need to go back to their countries. But these are the positive aspects that we're talking about in terms of how migrants can help the economy as well.
Yes. Yes, even though they need to remit part of their income back home, and we need to understand why. They have families, and their families have expectations. These are someone's husband, someone's wife, someone's son, someone's daughter. Mm-hmm. And they have expectations, and those expectations are legitimate. And these people find themselves, as he was explaining, very much in the middle sometimes of how they wish to live their life and the expectations back home. But we have to help them by being sympathetic in this and understanding that, yes, a part of their income goes to supporting their families back home, but their contribution to the economy remains a very important one.
And Thulani, how do these financial obligations to family and communities at home influence the everyday decisions that migrants are making, like where they live? You explained that you're paying €1,000 for, one bedroom, the jobs they accept, and even when do they have time to rest, and socialize?
Okay, yeah, it's quite a challenge for most people. We always interact with different people, different backgrounds, different professions. Mm-hmm. So those financial remittances, they influence your everyday life, your everyday choices, Like if you were used to going out like once or twice a week, now you have to do it like maybe every 3 weeks or so. And also where you have to stay, that's why you end up seeing people sharing apartments, something which probably you've never gotten used to, but because of the but because of the situation of your finances, you have to compromise on those aspects. And also in terms of, let's say you want to upgrade yourself, you are a bit limited because maybe the finances are not permitting you. So the remittances, they contribute to your everyday choices. As they say, there's always a joke that people say, every step out of your door costs something. So I think it relates. It's almost the same thing. So
What I'm hearing from you also is that with family back home and sending money, even if it means that you would take a step back in terms of spending on yourself, is that family values are important and making sure that your own family is also taken care of.
Yes, because for some of us, it's our lives revolve around family. Though not everyone remits, but still everyone has that mind that, okay, fine, I need to invest in something. So by remitting back home, others, they don't remit for family upkeep. You remit for your future investments, maybe in property or farming or something. So you still have to think for the future. You don't just live for now. So all those financial obligations affect your everyday decision making in terms of how you handle your finances.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because you're not just talking about living here in Malta, you're also talking about your future and leaving a legacy and building in between two places.
Yes, and I believe families who have family members who are working in a foreign country have that kind of peace of mind that if something happens, if we need medical care, if we have an expense that we didn't foresee, then we call our relative who's working in Malta and he will help us.
Yes.
and there's that constant pressure on these workers to always have reserves available to help their family members when unexpected things happen to them. So I think it's a lot of pressure on these people.
Yes.
And just continuing on that there, from the economic and workplace perspective and the pressure that migrants are facing, what impact do the low wages that are paid to them, have an impact in terms of long-term integration and productivity?
Of course, the smaller the budget, the harder things get. And I think when people come to work in Malta from other countries, some of them do not immediately realize just how low the wage may be for living here. Because if you just look at the number with the eyes of someone who comes from a country where wages are much lower, without factoring in the cost of living here, you might think this is actually a good deal. And then you come here, and first you discover that you have to pay those fees that we mentioned earlier. So you start already with a minus. And then you discover that the rent is not proportionate to the wages. And then you discover that groceries are very expensive and going out is expensive, and that the standard of living here is also quite high, that it's very easy to feel poor even if you can afford the basics. I think that is something that we don't think about so much, that we say, oh, but they're living a much better life than they were living back home. But then you have to factor in that poverty is a relative concept. So if you're living in a society where everybody is having a pretty comfortable life, and you have to watch every extra coffee that you take, it's difficult, because everybody's human. You feel it. So yes, it's a big issue for migrant workers.
And you're speaking earlier about, in terms of employers giving fair wages and also being empathetic and understanding that it doesn't mean because they a migrant or a third country national, they should be paid less.
Exactly. I mean, this is a very unjustified way of looking at things. You can't say, look, I'm paying this amount and it's 4 times what they would get in their own country, because they're living here, not in their own country. So the pay needs to make sense for living here. And if that pay does not make sense for a local, it shouldn't make sense for a foreign worker either. Because what happens is there is only so long that a person can live with so much financial stress. They stay here until they find a better option. This is what happens typically. So we invest money in training these people so that they leave a few months down the line because some other country pays better.
Yeah, so that impacts their productivity as well. If they're being paid low and they see that others are maybe earning a bit more than them, then they don't give fully of themselves.
I think more than that, the biggest impact on productivity is that if you have a lot of turnover, if your workforce is constantly new recruits, you're constantly training. Even the most competent of employees has a learning curve in every job. And in the first few months, you're never performing to your full potential because you're learning the peculiarities of that particular job, no matter how qualified you are for it. So by the time you reach your full potential, you're gone. And someone else joins who has to start again from the beginning. So everybody is functioning at below potential because we have so much turnover. And when you have so much turnover, it's not just the people who are being recruited who cannot perform to their full potential, but everyone else in that supply chain, all the colleagues who have to spend time training, checking the work of a new recruit because he's doing it for the first time. All the dynamics that have to develop over time, especially when there are cultural differences, even in the way we communicate, it takes some adjustment. That adjustment costs in terms of efficiency and lowers your productivity.
It's a good way of looking at it in terms of your profit being, taking a knock because you've got such a high turnover of people.
Definitely.
And it's affecting the team and productivity and even, way people feel or interact as well.
Yes, and people feel very insecure when they are working with people who themselves feel very insecure. The kind of insecurity is transferred from one employee to another.
Yeah, no, I can relate as well. Being in hospitality, I've trained lots of people since I came to Malta, and the turnover is very high, and that spills over to the quality of service that if you come as a guest, because every day you have to train a new person, and every day they get a different service. So now you end up feeling like you're not getting value for money, because now you're training like 5 people every month, and they're going. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate for the companies, for the employers, and for the end user, which are the
and then
customers.
Hospitality for the country, because the people who are getting the service come here, go with an experience that is part of our marketing.
Yes. which tends to be bad sometimes, because you don't really get to keep the good quality. So if maybe whoever is responsible could maybe do an analysis on that, it would help.
Yes.
And also on the remittances part, with quite a broad demographic, people in Malta coming from different places, where the currencies of different countries have an influence on what is acceptable by employees as well. Understand? So if you take someone who uses rupees, if you change a 1 euro to rupee, it's like, what, 400? If you take 1 euro to a rand, it's 19 rand. So if you take those two different people, you understand what they'll accept is for the same role. The other one will accept something low because they know if they remit, they get this much. This one gets this much, you understand? So, yeah, there's nothing really much to be done, but it affects the market as well. Yeah.
But what Marissa is saying is that it doesn't matter whether they've got rupees or rands.
Yes.
It's that what they're living and working here, so they should earn, encourage employers that they earn a fair wage while they're living here.
Yes.
So that they live here for as long as they would like to be away from their country.
Yes.
Rather than jump from one country to another because it's not good enough here.
Okay. And Tilani, how important is financial literacy and long-term planning for migrants who want to not only survive, but build wealth, stability, and eventually a legacy for their families, while they're living here in Malta?
No, financial literacy is very important because it helps you to know how to plan around your finances. It helps you to define between your needs and your wants. What do you define as important? Like, what can you focus on? Where to spend your money on? So it's really important that everyone understands why they came to work. What are they working for? Yes, they're working for money, but money for what? Money to do what? Yes, to buy food, to pay rent, to buy clothes, but what is it after? What goes beyond? So everyone needs to understand that, okay, fine, there's always a future. Yes, we live once, but no, we live every day. But yeah, and eventually others, because there's lots of young people here, they're going to have families. You need to have like varsity trust for your kids. I always love to invest in something, anything can happen anytime, So financial literacy helps you to plan for any eventualities, because anything can happen. So it's important to understand how to handle your finances, because every decision you make hits your pocket. Yeah.
Thank you. And my last question for you, Marissa. For women listening today who may aspire to leadership roles in business or finance, what advice would you give them about building confidence, professional networks, and developing a long-term career here in Malta?
Yes, I think for women, building confidence is very important. Because although nowadays, on paper at least, there's equal opportunities, up to a few decades ago, some jobs were very much out of reach for women. So you will still find workplaces where being a woman in a certain position can be somehow challenged. And the only way you can overcome this is to be prepared for the role, of course, to make an effort, to do your best. Maybe it takes a little bit more for a woman than it would take for a man to do well in the same job, but that is something that should not put us off. Mm-hmm. It helps us build confidence. It helps us know that we are doing it in a good way. And networking is also very important for women, and I find that even with local women, this is something we don't give enough importance to, because of course most of us are juggling a career and a family, and sometimes we tend to see networking as a waste of time. I'd rather spend more time with my children than networking. This is the typical mindset of a Maltese woman who has a family and a career. But in fact, that networking is instrumental for career progression. Nobody's going to come looking for you in an office where you're drowning in files and paperwork to discover that you are capable of doing more. You have to reach out yourself, you have to build your networks, and you have to take networking as part of your learning experience. You learn a lot of things outside your role, outside your office, outside the environment in which you work every day, and this helps you to be a more complete professional.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you to you, Thulani and Marissa, for coming and joining us today, sharing your expertise and experience, which has been very valuable. And thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Empower to Integrate, a collaborative initiative by Aditus Foundation and the African Media Association Malta. This program is dedicated to advancing integration and social inclusion for third country nationals in Malta. It is funded by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund, co-funded by the European Union and carried out in collaboration with the Parliamentary Secretariat for European Funds.